Good morning, John Sautter with the Purdue Alumni Association. We're delayed a little bit due to some technical difficulties, but with April Holleiter behind the camera, we're ready to bring you another Facebook Live. This morning we're coming to you from the Purdue Memorial Union building. We've been here a couple of times before, and the response that we get from alumni across the country is that they really enjoy hearing about the Union, where so many of them spent so much time. And with the Christmas tree behind me here, we just thought it'd be a great place to look through and talk about today. So we're in the Great Hall on the top floor of the Union building, and you can see the Christmas tree. The 30-foot Christmas tree was actually brought in last Monday as they go through the ordeal. And if you've ever seen the pictures, it takes about 20 physical plant crew to pull it through the front door and eventually get it erected. There's a great history with the Christmas tree. It goes all the way back for about 80 years or so. We used to actually purchase the Christmas tree from a Christmas farm, Christmas tree farm in Wisconsin, where it would be cut down and taken to the local railroad station, put on a flatbed railroad car, brought all the way to Lafayette. They would pick it up and bring it in. Ever since about 1975 or so, we have local residents within an hour range who actually would like to donate their tree for the Union building. So it's become kind of a tradition, and there's not a competition per se, but they do go out and inspect the trees for their fullness and their height and that sort of thing. And so it's got to be about 30 feet tall. In fact, I can tell you this year's tree ended up being about 33 feet. And so they actually had to trim the very top little branches up there because it was sticking against the ceiling or so. But a lot of traditions with the Christmas tree. They have a light counting contest every noon down on the risers downstairs. We'll have a different musical group from campus and actually from the local high schools and junior high schools that will come in and sing. It's very festive. Also point out in the corner our 10-foot tall Gingerbread House. As you may know, our research department, headed up by April, found that today is National Gingerbread House Day. And so every year for the last few years now, they've had a gingerbread house, which is put together by our executive chef, Bruce Halmetzer. Comes in and spends a lot of time. His specialty, in addition to the food that he does for the Union, he actually specializes in gingerbread houses and ice sculptures, interestingly enough. So if you need an ice sculpture for that special event, now you know where to come, the Purdue Memorial Union building on our head chef. So starting with the tree, we're going to work our way down the hallway. We're going to stop in the Sagamore room. We're going to look at the presidential smart windows, stained glass windows, and actually end up in a very special, kind of a secluded dining room that we have in this building, where a lot of meetings have taken place over the years. Come on through, that's fine. Work goes on in the building. So we're going to be entering the Sagamore room. This restaurant, dining room, has actually been here from the beginning of the building being opened. As we enter the Sagamore room, originally it was called the Chestnut Room, and was downstairs when the building opened. It was a smaller space down there. The Chestnut Room was actually modeled after the Walnut Room out of the Marshall Fields out of Chicago. It took the name from there because that was what it was aspiring to be like. It actually moved up here. In 1929, they're actually getting ready to celebrate their 90th anniversary of being in this location. And it's been renovated many times over through the years. And with the hotel connected to us, it's just a great spot for our folks to come and catch a breakfast on their way out. We serve breakfast every morning of the week. We serve lunch during the week, and not so much on weekends. But if I take you back to the history of the building, this really used to be the place. After church on Sunday mornings, this place was the place to come on in town. You could park right behind the building, and this up through about the 80s or so, late 80s, early 90s, this used to be the spot to come to bring the family after church for brunch. Very attractive, very good food. With so many places in town anymore, it really doesn't have quite the attraction that it once did. Plus, it's a little bit harder to get to with the parking and that sort of thing, but still serves our guests in the hotel. We're now going to turn around and look at the Wallbash Room. The Wallbash Room is one of our reservable dining rooms. The reason I point this out is that the table used in this particular room is the table that was actually in the Board of Trustees room in Hovde Hall. when the trustees' room was connected to the president's office in Hovde Hall. This is the table that the trustees would sit around for their meetings. It was there all the way up through Steve Beering. Steve Beering, in fact, used to have cabinet meetings. And if I can say something personal, having attended some cabinet meetings with Dr. Beering, I actually sat around this table for cabinet meetings every Monday morning at 9 o'clock as we got each week started when Dr. Beering was the president. Eventually, the trustees' room was moved to the anniversary drawing room in this building, and now it's in Stewart 326. But it was kept as a meeting room. Now it's actually divided up into cubicles, and it's more of a work area in Hovde Hall. Now we're going to see another reservable room here in the Sagamore room. That's recently opened, and it's called the Director's Room. The Director's Room actually can be a dining room. It can actually be a meeting room if you're coming back for special events. But it's the Director's Room because it features all the directors that had been head of the Union building. And so we start with Jack Walters, who was the very first director when the building opened in 1924. And pictures of all succeeding directors are here. Here we have Lloyd Valley, who was here from 1929 to around 1960 or so. A significant growth period where we went through several additions to the facility. Under Lloyd Valley, he had other positions within the university also. R.B. Stewart counted on him a lot in terms of the student life and living areas and offerings for students. That brought us to Dale McHenry, who took over the building in the 1960s or so. In between the two is Jack Smalley. Jack Smalley, who eventually became the vice president for housing and food services. Originally, his office was in this building. He was the director of the union as well as the vice president. When housing continued to expand and needed a separate vice president, they actually moved his office out to Smalley Center. And then from Dale McHenry, we actually went to Bob Mindrum. Bob Mindrum, who's just retired as the director of the Union building. Bob was a great guy who really financially brought the building to a great status, did a lot with PSUB, did a lot of innovation with the food service, brought the food service into the kind of the modern era with a lot of the food concepts we have downstairs. And if you've been here recently, you'll even see that we've tried to maintain that. We've tried to avoid any of the franchises that many other union buildings have gone to. We still have some, but they're not as well known. The biggest one that we probably have that we could not avoid is Starbucks. Starbucks, which is everybody's most famous place, popular, favorite place, is here, and we've expanded it once, and we actually now even have a second Starbucks on campus out in the residence hall area. So we've tried to maintain that look. You know, union buildings require a lot of special attention in that when alumni come back for homecoming or wherever they're on campus, they come into the building and they kind of expect it to be just like it was when they were there, as if they want the walls to say, hello, welcome back, remember me, that sort of thing. And so we've tried to maintain that as much as we possibly can. We're now going to gain a little speed here as we walk out into the hallway and go further down the top floor of the Union building. We're coming to you during finals week. Finals week is going on campus, and so it's the second day of finals, and so things are pretty quiet on campus these days as the students are taking their last couple of finals and head out for the winter break. You may recall those times too. So just about mid-afternoon, we can go downstairs, and just about every chair and every couch is going to be filled with students either studying or catching a cat nap in between studying and that sort of thing. We're now going to come to the end of the hallway, and we're now at the southwest corner on the top floor. And we're going to come to the end of the hallway and see these beautiful stained glass windows. These were dedicated to President Smart. President James Smart was our fourth president, and after he passed away suddenly at the young age of 58, a lot of folks wanted to have something dedicated to him, and so the Stewart family dedicated the stained glass window to him. It has a lot of symbolism to it. Across the top, it says, "Our poor spirit is so weak that it is only through the use of materials that it can rise to the truth." And then it features 4 panels. One is Mother Earth, another is Sister Water, another is Brother Fire, and the other one is Brother Wind. And then within each panel, there are representations of students holding various items that portray disciplines offered by Purdue, including a train, a bridge, a tractor, and a tulip. You can actually spend a fair amount of time analyzing the various symbols within the stained glass window. This is one of those things that students have walked by for years and never really noticed, but it was quite significant. President Smart, as you may recall, was our fourth president from 1883 to 1900. A lot happened during his presidency. The exponent and the debris were both started way back then. We actually took on our name of the Boilermakers during his era. He was known for that. The band got started actually during his presidency of 17 years. So although it was fairly brief, there was a lot going on. And he's probably most known for his famous speech that he gave after Heveland Hall had burned to the ground. This beautiful brand new building opens up and the next day burns to the ground. And he gives a speech where he tells the crowd to not be too forlorn because we will rebuild the building one brick higher. And one brick higher is still today one of the rallying cries that we use for doing that extra, going the extra mile and that sort of thing. So windows dedicated to James Smart. On this side of the hallway is the Purdue Student Union Board office. The Student Union Board, many of you have served on the Student Union Board over the years. It really brings this building to life every year. Still maintains a lot of traditions, like the lights counting contest on the Christmas tree. In fact, it really these days takes care of homecoming and a lot of the activities and receptions that go on this year. I see the bulletin board highlights books and coffee. We still have books and coffee where professors and faculty and staff will come in and discuss books with the students. And so the Student Union Board is really one of the top student organizations on campus. It really makes things happen. We're now going to kind of duck into kind of a secluded dining room. It's called the Lafayette Dining Room. And this is a room just off of the Sagamore Room. Small, but it's connected to them so it has food service readily available. But this small dining room is where administrative staff, in fact anyone on campus can reserve it. But it's really well known because this is where a lot of the major higher level staff would come for lunch. And so if you can just imagine, from Presidents Elliott to Hovde to Hansen to Beering and others who have sat at this table, along with R.B. Stewart and Red Mackey, deans of schools, chief financial officers, including Fred Ford and Lytle Freehafer. A lot of those folks sat at this table and had meetings discussing university policy, situations that are going on, all within the confines of this building. And again, having worked for Dr. Fred Ford, he had his staff meetings in this particular room. So again, this brings back some memories for me. Following him, Ken Burns was the chief financial officer, and again, he would have staff meetings in this room, and just a real good chance to get to know each other and really find out what's going on within the university and how we can make it the best place it can be. And the good news, it all worked out, and Purdue is very well known today across the country, across the world. But getting back to places like this on campus, these are very nostalgic for a lot of the folks. So that kind of brings to a conclusion this particular version of Facebook Live. We hope you've enjoyed it, brought back some memories. We continue to hear from lots of you in response to these, and so keep those comments coming in. It gives us ideas for places to go into the future. And so on behalf of April and myself and the Alumni Association, happy holidays and hail Purdue.